verse. Anybody remember, Rhonda? Verse 8, she said. Well, I didn't finish. Verse 8 is where we stopped. Verse 8, chapter 7. And I did tell her verse 8 last week. And I said, but I'm going to back up one verse just because it deserves to be talked about. And I want to make sure that we cover it. It's a very good. Hi, Teresa. Teresa's here. Well, now Russ will start acting better, maybe. All right. Ecclesiastes chapter 7, and I did say verse 8 would start, but I want to back up because I just want to cover that verse again on verse 7. Ecclesiastes 7:7. Here we go. Surely oppression maketh a wise man mad or foolish. He's talking about somebody that is offered a bribe and accepts it. You can be offered a bribe and turn it down. A bribe. You do have the right to say, no, thank you. I don't want to be involved. But surely oppression maketh a wise man mad or makes him very foolish, and a gift destroyeth the heart. I'll cover verses as we go. I said, my granny, I started this out with my granny. My granny used to call people a wesser. A wesser. W-E-S-S-E-R, the way I'm spelling it. She used to call him a wesser. Oh, he's a wesser, or she's a wesser. I really didn't know where that phrase came from, but I did come to know what it meant. She would call them a wesser. Someone who was wessing you was someone who was flattering you right before they ask you for something or for a favor. Oh, you got to be careful. They're wessing you. And she was just an old country hillbilly of a person, but she was pretty country smart. And anyway, she would say, oh, be careful. They're wessing you. They're going to ask you. They're going to take advantage of you. The importance of being truthful cannot be overstated. However, the truth must always be spoken in genuine love. You can't just, I said, I told you so is not going to get it. You may have told them so, but genuine love and concern for somebody who either doesn't listen or gets in trouble, and you knew they were going to get in trouble, I told you so, it just doesn't work. And you may be completely right, but he tells us to confront that situation with genuine love and concern for those who got themselves in trouble. Proverbs 27 and verse 6, Solomon said, listen to this, faithful are the wounds of a friend, but the kisses of an enemy are deceitful. Faithful are the wounds of a friend. Somebody that loves you and tells you the truth. Maybe you didn't want to hear it, but they told you the best they could in love, hopefully. That's better than somebody who is flattering you and building you up to take advantage of you. So and I wrote, this is something that I wrote from what I read in Proverbs. I wish I remembered the verse, but I don't remember the verse. But here's what I wrote. Talking about the wounds of a friend. The faithful are the wounds of a friend. They hurt you. They say things because they love you. Like when you're correcting a child or trying to help a friend. You do it out of love and concern and compassion for the person who's about to hurt themselves. Or maybe they already have. But I've observed Solomon wrote, at least my understanding of what he wrote, says this. You say you love me to my face, but you give me cause to wonder what you really do think. I found that to be interesting. He admonishes us, do not sell out your good name. Remember, he started out with a good name, rather to be desired than great riches. That's how it started. Guard your name. Protect it. It is more valuable than gold or silver. You probably worked hard to earn a good name. Money, talking about the idea of money can make a person act pretty foolish at times. Money can cause us to do something that we otherwise wouldn't do. It can cause that. Money has power. Would you agree with that? Money has power. It can buy, listen to this, it can buy votes. Is that right? Yeah. Money can buy votes. You know they're spending about $2 billion now to get elected on, if you want it, the highest office. Around $2 billion what they spend in advertising. Money has power. I said it can buy votes. It can buy popularity. Money can pervert justice. Is that possible? He's talking about bribes. Money can pervert justice. And here's something that money can do. Money can buy some fair weather friends. Money can buy some fair weather friends. Bribes are used in politics and in law. It is used to distort the truth. So Solomon is teaching. It can make a wise man appear to be foolish. Enough money can make a wise man appear to be foolish. Bribes will always hurt the innocent. It will hurt those who tell the truth and those who are simply trying to do the right thing. Someone said, see if you've heard this, all men have their price. Have you ever heard that? All men have their price. But truth is not for sale. Truth is not for sale. And neither is a good, honest man or woman, I need to put in there. Only a fool, or at least someone doing a very foolish thing, would take a bribe. Now verses 8 and 9. Better is the end of a thing than the beginning thereof, and the patient in spirit is better than the proud in spirit. Be not hasty in thy spirit to be angry. Watch your temper. Watch your temper. Anybody ever have trouble with their temper? He's telling, watch your temper. Anger resteth in the bosom of fools, or people who will do a foolish thing. Anger causes you to do things that you otherwise wouldn't do. Anger will cause you to say things that you otherwise wouldn't say. Amen. Okay. She's done that for you. Okay. Solomon teaches us in these two verses the importance of finishing whatever you start. If you start a project, he's teaching us the importance of finishing it. A wise man will count the cost before he starts the project. Oftentimes, good people have great ideas, or they have a great vision, or a lot of passion. But a wise man will take time to sit down and count the cost. Lee, I wrote this in here just because I was thinking of you. They don't go off half-cocked like a gun. You know what I'm talking about? Self-discipline is very important to having a good name. Knowing when to say no to yourself, and listen to this, also knowing when and having the courage to say no to a friend. Someone, you just need to say no to because they're leading you, they're taking you in a wrong direction. Many businesses and churches have failed because someone failed to plan. One thought I had on that last verse. It is better to be wise than it is to be rich. And I'll give you some examples here in a few minutes. Better to be wise than it is to be rich. Good churches get upside down financially and get into trouble because they got faith mixed up with foolishness. My dad used to say to me early in my ministry as I began to pastor, and I, like anybody, I had big ideas. I wanted to do things, wanted to accomplish things. And my dad said, son, don't get faith mixed up with foolishness. He was telling me don't do something foolish. Now, I know sometimes we're a fool for Christ and all that, but also count the cost. He was teaching me to count the cost because I can have a great desire and a great ambition, but I can do some very foolish things. Anyone, Solomon is teaching, anyone can start a project, but with careful planning, especially when it comes to the bottom line, failure is often the result without careful planning. Listen to this. Now, I've given you this number a few times over the last 2 or 3 years, and it's still the same. You can look it up for yourself, and I admonish you to. There are 4,000 churches in America that close every year. That's a lot of churches, don't you think? And I don't think it's because they have a lot of money. I don't think they do. I think it's probably because they get upside down. And it's they had a great desire and they wanted to do something great for the Lord. You can drive down about any street, any town, go down the highway up on 82, drive down 82 up there at Gainesville, down that way and over to your left on the north side of the road, you'll see a great big beautiful building that is empty with the grass that high. And at one time, they had a vision, which is great. But you got to be careful about the bottom line. I said, people don't plan to fail, just sometimes they fail to plan. Any project, Solomon is teaching us, any project that's worth doing involves hard work. You agree with that? It involves hard work, it involves commitment, and most of the time it involves finances. And then I said, you cannot get around it. You simply cannot get around it. And then he says, whatever you do in that verse there, be not hasty in thy spirit to be angry. Do not fly off the handle. You can ruin a good relationship. Just getting angry, you can ruin a good relationship, or you can ruin even a good name by getting angry too easily. Verse 10, let me read that. Say not thou, what is the cause? This is one that we've all guilty of. What is the cause that the former days were better than these? You all know what that's saying, don't you? How's come the good old days were better than what they are today? Say not thou, what is the cause that the former days were better than these? For thou dost not inquire wisely concerning this. Solomon warns us. He warns us about living in the past. I have a tendency to do that. You know, Brother Brian, I wish I had a 55 Chevrolet. You know, why wouldn't I want a 2025 something, you know? But I would rather have a 55 Chevrolet. I've seen brand new Corvettes driving around. I'd rather have a 1967 Corvette if I'm going to drive one. You know, I have a tendency to look backwards and say, boy, it was really good in the good old days. But he warns us about living in the past. And sometimes we're probably all guilty of talking about the good old days.
I'd like to have a set.
Oh, you're funny. Oh, when I was young and strong and somewhat carefree, I looked at life a little differently than I do now. I approach life with some caution now. I watch very closely. And I watch things I eat. I would eat anything that didn't eat me when I was young. I'd go out to the garden when I was a boy and pull up a carrot and wipe the dirt off and eat it. You know, I just would do that. Or a beet, you know, just wipe the dirt off of it, knock it off. I wouldn't do that now for anything. When I was young, I looked at life a little differently than I do now. I know that I have a lot more years behind me than I do in front of me. I know that. However, I still think there are many good days and years ahead. And I'm being a little bit prejudiced towards our country. I think America was a better place to live 40 or 50 years ago. I think it was more of a Christian nation in those days. That's what I think. But this is a warning. If all I ever do is look at the past, I will not enjoy my life now. I mean, I can enjoy life right now, Maddie. I can have some good days right now. Every day is with Jesus is sweeter than the day before. Amen. Life is made up of phases. I mean, I'm a grandfather now. I had to learn how to be. I was a father. I learned how to be a father. A husband. I learned how to be a husband. And on and on. And phases. Life is made up of phases. And we adjust to those phases. If all I ever do is look at the past, I won't have much to look forward to. And sometimes when I'm looking at the past and looking at how great and how wonderful it used to be, and that's all I'm focused on, all of a sudden I find myself fighting depression. Man, I wish it was like it used to be, is what I'm saying. We must learn, you and I, as Christian people, we must learn to enjoy each and every day. Make good memories for other people. Bring a smile and share it with others. Quit thinking only about your own problems. Anybody here got any problems? Hallelujah, we got them, right? We got them. But if we're going to focus in on our problems, we're not going to be able to look around and see that other people are also struggling. And they might need us to speak a word of encouragement, even though we feel down. And I've learned through the years, you speaking a word of encouragement, you trying to help somebody else will encourage you. It'll bring something good to you. And when you bring a smile to somebody else's face, it just makes you smile. Today, Sandy?
Today, I was walking back from Walmart, and this gentleman was getting ready to go in, you know.
Yeah.
And I said, hello, how are you doing, you know.
Uh-huh.
And it was so nice. He says, well, hello, and thank you for asking.
Oh, yes. Today, I had one of those spam calls on my phone. I usually don't answer them, but I answered it. It was selling me some medical things. It's free. You have Medicare yet? It's free. I answered, and I started talking while I was talking over her. And I said, ma'am, I don't need any kind of medical. I said, I'm in good health. I said, I feel good. I feel great. I said, Is there anything I can do for you? And she's trying to talk to me, I said, I'll tell you what, let me tell you a joke. And she's talking. And I said, let me just tell you a joke. She said, okay. So I told her the joke about my Aunt Nosy. I've told you all about my Aunt Nosy, tragedy of how she passed away. And she laughed and she laughed and she laughed till she couldn't hardly stop laughing. She said, I'm going to tell that to my co-workers. So anyway, Aunt Nosy, she had a nose so long, she turned over at night and her nose went in her ear, she sneezed and blew her brains out. That's why it was Aunt Nosy. That was the end of Aunt Nosy. But she laughed and laughed. Let's see, bring a smile to somebody else's face. And I did it because I wanted, I was trying, in my mind, I was actually going over this part when she called. And I was trying to bring a smile to her face and a joy into her heart. An otherwise day of drudgery, doing her job. But I tried to make her laugh. And she laughed. She couldn't hardly talk to me after that. Bring a smile to someone else's face. And someday, you will look back on this day and remember it as a good old day. I'm going to read verses 11 and 12. Wisdom is good, verse 11 and 12. Wisdom is good with an inheritance, and by it there is profit to them that see the sun. For wisdom is a defense, money is a defense, but the excellency of knowledge is that wisdom giveth life to them that have it. Let me give you a couple of thoughts on those verses, and I'll stop from there. Next week, verse 13.
Yes, sir.
Next week. But tonight, right now, we're going to finish on verse 11 and 12. Let's see. He warns us. Oh, no. Down here. Okay, here we go. Solomon offers us some good advice. He gives us insight on how to have a successful life. He begins by telling us that a child who receives an inheritance, who has no wisdom, will soon waste it all. A child who receives an inheritance, a large inheritance, will soon waste it all if they have no wisdom. So, giving your kids good advice and good counsel while they're young is of great value. It's of more value than the money that you can leave them or properties that you can leave them. Now, I heard this just this week. I hope my friend up in Ohio is listening to this. I hope he listens to it tonight. A child who steals their inheritance will have their eyes plucked out by the ravens. That's interesting. A child that steals their inheritance. I looked up some examples of things that have happened. Every one of you have heard of children who have killed their parents to get their money. Every one of you have heard of somebody who's done that. Let me tell you a story. The Minnesota Twins had a baseball pitcher named Stefani or something like that. He made $14 million throwing a baseball for 7 years for the Minnesota Twins. He made $14 million. He went through a divorce. He somehow squandered it, lost it. He married, this is a professional baseball player. In fact, in 2023 is when he was sentenced. But I think it was 2016 when it occurred. He remarried a very wealthy young lady. Her parents were extremely wealthy, giving them a very large allowance throughout each year that they were married because he was used to making a lot of money. And they were very wealthy, lived in Tahoe. And they they were real estate tycoons, very wealthy. Because he knew the daughter would inherit their money, he's a professional baseball player. He plans and executes the parents. Of course, he is caught. He's found out the wife of the man survived the attack. She was shot 3 times. She still lived through that. Shot in the head. He was shot in the head and died, I guess, probably instantly. But anyway, he ended up going to prison, and deservedly so. And what Solomon said, a child who tries to steal their inheritance will have their eyes plucked out by ravens. That doesn't necessarily mean their eyes will be plucked out. It means it's something tragic. They're going to have something that happens to them that's not going to be good. I could tell you several other stories of grown kids who want their inheritance, who tries to rob their parents. Giving your children good advice is greater than giving them money. There is not enough money in the world to keep a fool or a rebel in riches. Money will take wings and fly away. Only foolish people and the very young will think that somehow money will buy their happiness. That's simply not true. Money will buy you sorrow and trials and difficulties. Now, it doesn't mean you don't need money. We know we need money to be able to get along. Many times, too much money brings sorrow and depression. And sometimes not having enough money can bring on sorrow and depression. Some way, somehow, we got to know how to handle what God blesses us with and take care of it. Hard work and wisdom will bring peace and joy and profit. I'm going to give you one more example. A fool's upkeep can become their downfall. Solomon said, there is profit in all labor. Solomon taught us there's profit in all labor. We go to work, they pay us, $10 an hour, $20 an hour, whatever you can get paid, $30 an hour if you're a government worker, $45 an hour, whatever you can get paid. But your time is worth something. There's profit in all labor. Now, I mentioned earlier faith and foolishness, didn't I? You all remember that? I mentioned faith and foolishness. I'm going to tell you a story. I won't mention a name. I knew a man. He's already passed away now. A good man. He got to listening to a preacher on TV. I'll mention his name. His name is Robert Tilton. Anybody ever hears his name? Robert Tilton said on a broadcast to sow a seed in his ministry and God would multiply it 10 times, 50 times, 100 times. That's what he said. But you got to sow it into his ministry, okay? This particular man that I knew, good man, good family man, had 5 kids, 6 kids. Went to the bank and borrowed $5,000 and sent it to that ministry. He ended up being $5,000 in debt. He wanted to open a business. He needed $50,000 to do that. He didn't get to 50,000. He just found himself $5,000 in debt. I said, there's a fine line. I said, there's a fine line between faith and foolishness. And I know he acted in faith, believing what he was told. I know he did. He's a good man. But he did something, he indebted his family, all of his children, ended up declaring bankruptcy and having a nervous breakdown and went to a nursing home. A good man. To be a wise child is better than being rich. Being a wise child is better than being rich. I'll stop right there. Verse 13 next week. Okay. Well, thank you for, yes, Wanda.